Okay, welcome back to Tansy Academy. Today we'll be looking at chapter 6, lesson 1, the insert statement. If you remember this slide from chapter 5, where we talked about how you can divide the whole SQL commands into different categories. So we have already completed the DDL category in the chapter 5, like create statement, create table, alter table, drop column, drop table, create index, drop index. So those kind of commands. Today the chapter 6 will be looking at DML statements. Okay, and this the bigger the circle, the more you will be using these commands. So DQL, select, where, group by, having, those commands will be used a lot when you actually go and work for your real company. Okay, so the first lesson in chapter 6 is insert. So let's take a look at what this command does and how we are going to use this. Okay, so what is insert? The insert command helps you put new information into a table, right? So we have seen how to create a table, right? So now after creating table, how do you actually add data? So you use the insert command to add new data to your table, right? And each row in a table is like a new item. So you will be writing multiple insert statements. Let's say if you want to insert 10 rows, let's say I have one row today, then second row tomorrow, then day after, then I have to write individual insert statements to insert each record or a row into my table. Okay, so this is the simple syntax for insert. You say insert into, you say table name, and then you specify all the columns, and then you specify values. So the sequence of the sequence number of a column in the list should be equal corresponding to the value, right? Let's say here you are passing product ID. You should pass product ID at the position 1. You cannot say I am passing it to. So SQL will not know. So it will assume that the positions are matched between the column names and the values you pass. Okay, right? And then let's say that we have a grocery list, right? So it's an empty. So what will I do? Like if it is a table called grocery, so how will I add rows to this table, right? So just 1 second, let me see if anyone is waiting for. Okay, so what you do is you write the insert statement for each row. So you say insert into grocery list. This is your table name and these are your columns, assuming that you have ID column and item column. And then you say values. This is a SQL keyword, and then you pass the values. First you pass the value for ID, then you pass the value for item. You see here this string is encoded in a single quote. So the strings or dates, even whenever you are trying to insert a date or a string, you have to encode in a single quote. For numeric, you don't need any single quotes. Okay, and then this way you write multiple insert statement and execute this. This data will be inserted in your grocery list table. If you let's look at a little bit complicated example here. I think most of us have already seen this screen to sign up on some mobile application from our mobile. So on the left hand side, this is the sign up screen. Basically this screen is asking for username, full name, email and password, right? So once you click this sign up button, so what actually happens behind the scene? So this data will be stored in a table, in a users table, right? So this table will have these columns: user ID, username, full name, email and password. And if you notice, this user ID is not displayed here. So that is how it works. Most probably the primary key, foreign keys will not be displayed to the user. It is used internally by the database to link the data. Okay, so here let's say the first user comes and enter his data. This data is converted into insert statement like this. As I said, all the strings should be encoded in single quote. So you see it here, and then this ID, it will be if it is auto generated, you don't have to pass this user ID. You can, I think we have seen this. You can start with username. You don't need to pass user ID here. Okay, username, full name, email, and it will insert this row into user table. If a second user comes, you have to convert his information that he entered on the screen using the second insert statement like this. Okay, and then here I'm going to talk about how to enter data for foreign keys. Let's say we have a form called employee demographic form, right? Here they're asking for first name, last name, and then watch about this nationality. It's a drop down. Race is a drop down, and then marital status is a these are called radio buttons. You select only one out of these three. Okay, number of dependents, it's input. Yeah, this is called text box, radio button, drop down, text input. Text is like it's freely, you have to enter. Drop down is like combo box, you have to select the value from the drop down. Okay, and then radio button is you are allowed to select only one. Okay, so this is the form, and this is the table, right? So let's see, what I'm storing for nationality. I'm not storing the text in my table, I'm storing integer. And this, if you look at the table definition, the integer is coming from a country table. So what happens in real world, this drop down is populated from a country table. Whatever the user selects, instead of passing the string, right, every country table will have country ID and name. So the software, the application will pass the ID to the backend database. So that's why you see this foreign keys here, instead of inserting the race and string of the race and nationality, you see like 1 and 2, right? And then this number of dependents, it's a input, so you are entering 2. Okay, so this first name last name is directly picked up from here. And then here, this option button is converted to a string. In some places they also get converted to either boolean true or false, or like 1 2 3, but here the whatever you see on this screen is being transferred into a table. So this is how you write an insert statement. Again, don't worry about this UI UX mockup, because you won't be involved in this as a database professional. You'll be given a design screen, then you have to write an insert statement for this, and maybe tables also someone else will be designing for you. Okay, and then coming back to our tabular form, let's say I have a patient table here. Okay, so we have patient ID, first name, last name, phone and email. Okay, so to insert these 3 rows, this is how my insert statement will look like. Insert into patient table, then column names, then values for those columns. So for 3 rows I insert 3 rows. Okay, right? And then there is another way of inserting data. Let's say I have the data for all the 3 rows at once, right? Most of the cases what happen, right, you are inserting some row today and then some other rows tomorrow, or maybe next hour, next minute. You don't have the information for other rows when you are inserting data for first row. But assume that you have the data or information for all the 3 rows, then you don't have to write 3 insert statements. You can do it in one insert statement, and this is called syntax for inserting multiple rows in one insert command. So this is a SQL statement. You can also call it as a SQL command, insert command. So within, see this semicolon, right, anything encompassed within semicolon is still a one SQL statement. So here you have used 3 different statements to insert 3 rows. Here I am using only one statement to insert 3 rows. It's like syntax difference, ultimately here you are getting 3 rows being stored, here also you are storing 3 rows, so the only difference is syntax. Here you say insert into table name, you mention all the column names just like previous syntax, and then you say values just like previous syntax. But here you have parenthesis and then you have a comma to say that I am also going to insert the second row, third row. Okay, right? Okay, let's start back here. Yeah, okay, yeah, so that's how you use this multi rows insert statement. And then there is a different format, I would call it like a lazy programmer, or most of the people do use this syntax in real production, in real banking application or hospital application. What they'll do here is they'll say insert into patient and they'll do values. They will not mention the column names here, but I do highly recommend that you always mention the column names in your insert statements. Okay, so this is also valid, but here the thing is, you have to pass values for all the columns, right? Let's say that your patient ID is auto increment, you don't want to pass here. That means you cannot use this syntax. You can use this syntax only when you pass values for all the columns, right? So that is the difference. Again, even if you're passing all the columns, I would recommend you to do something like this rather than not writing the column names. Okay, and tomorrow you add a column or drop a column, all your insert statements will fail if they're not mentioning the column names here. Because let's say I dropped a phone number column, then this will be let's say this will be going to email if I drop phone number in between, and then this is like it will say error saying that you are passing in more values than a number of columns in the table, something like that. Okay. And then there is another way of inserting data, right? Let's say this is my employee table, right? Employee ID, first name, last name, email, phone, and salary. Okay. And then I want to create a login table. In the login table, I just want the user ID, login name. I want to use email as a login name and some default password. True. So I want to insert into this from using this. I don't want to say insert into values and all. There is a way where you can insert directly from table 1 into table 2, right? So here is the syntax for that. You say insert into employee login. This is the table where you want to insert, and what are the columns you are inserting? 4 columns. You should not look at these columns. Look at the columns that you want to insert the data into, and then you say select from employee. So what you want to select from here? Again, this user ID is employee ID, so I will be going in proper sequence and position. In the login name, I want to use this email here. You look at here, the column names are different here. Okay. And then the password, I am hard coding. I am passing in the initial, I will be giving same password to everyone. And then I say everyone is active, true. So this way see, if you run this select statement, you will get the output, the same output. So instead of getting the output to your computer, I am saying this output will be rerouted and inserted into this new table. So this is how you use a select statement to insert data into a new table. So that ends the theory part of the insert.